Knowledge about hypertension. Diabetes. Find out in SugarBeat, the Gets Pharma Philippines cardiometabolic social media platform. Knowledge about hypertension. Diabetes. Find out in SugarBeat, the Gets Pharma Philippines cardiometabolic social media platform. Knowledge about hypertension. Diabetes. Find out in SugarBeat, the Gets Pharma Philippines cardiometabolic social media platform. Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to SugarBeat. SugarBeat is the official social media platform of Gets Pharma Philippines cardiometabolic line. SugarBeat aims to provide relevant and timely information on the prevention and management of diabetes and high blood pressure. All the page contents are designed for every Filipino to embrace the value of wellness and self-care. Hypertension and dyslipidemia are important risk factors for cardiovascular disease. The coexistence of hypertension and dyslipidemia is often observed in daily clinical practice and becoming rampant, due to today's lifestyle. To help us understand these two dreadful diseases, let me now call here on the virtual floor, our guest SugarBeat speaker for this afternoon. Our SugarBeat speaker for today is a graduate of St. Louis University College of Medicine. A certified hypertension specialist, he's a member of the Philippine Society of Hypertension and Philippine Lipid and Atherosclerosis Society. A member of the Philippine Diabetes Association and the Philippine Academy of Family Medicine. SugarBeaters, please welcome our speaker, Dr. Rommel Mapagu.
Hello, SugarBeat Nation. How are you guys? May tanong ako, high blood ka ba? At mataas ang cholesterol mo? Today we talk about the dreadful duo, okay? High blood, which is hypertension, and high cholesterol, which is called your hyperlipidemia. Una natin tignan ang high blood or ang hypertension. Hypertension is more common than you think. Usually, it is left unseen and it usually doesn't have any symptoms. That it's why it's not diagnosed easily. Did you know that 1 in 3 adults worldwide have high blood pressure? Or 1 in 4 adults have prehypertension, which is a risk factor for high blood pressure. And 1 in 5 adults with high blood pressure is not even aware that he or she has high blood pressure. And according to survey, by 2030, at least 7% of the American population, or maybe the world, will be hypertensive. High blood pressure also contributes to, believe it or not, 1,000 deaths each day. That's a lot of dead people per day. And 7 in 10 hypertensives will usually have their first heart attacks, while 8 in 10 hypertensives will have their first strokes, and 7 in 10 hypertensives will have chronic heart failure if they survive their heart attack or their stroke. Now, how do you know if you're hypertensive or not? Normal blood pressure usually ranges from a systolic of less than 120 and a diastolic of less than 80. Meaning, if you have a blood pressure of 110 or 100 up to 120 systolic and a diastolic of less than 70 or 80, you are still normal. But once your blood pressure ranges from 120 to 129 systolic, this is considered elevated already. And if your blood pressure ranges from 130 to 139 systolic and a diastolic of 80 to 89, this is considered stage 1 hypertension. And if your blood pressure goes higher at 140 systolic or a diastolic of higher than 90, this is considered stage 2 hypertension. And if it goes even higher, up to 200 systolic, and maybe a diastolic of 120, this is considered a hypertensive crisis, and usually this is an emergency, and definitely you have to see your doctor. Now, hypertension is a condition of persistent non-physiologic elevation of blood pressure. And most people will say they are hypertensive if they have a systolic blood pressure of 140 or more and a diastolic blood pressure of 90 and above. Take note that for every 20 milligram mercury increase of your systolic blood pressure or a 10 milligram mercury increase in your diastolic blood pressure, this is associated with doubling your risk of dying from a stroke or a risk of dying from coronary artery disease. Based on the latest Philippine Council of Hypertension survey, which is known as your presyon, 3 in every 10 adult Filipinos are hypertensive. So that's a lot of hypertensive Filipinos in this country. There are 2 types of hypertension. This is primary hypertension and secondary hypertension. When you say primary hypertension, the most common causes are usually neural, renal, vascular, or hormonal. And 90 to 95% of your hypertensive patients are usually your primary hypertension patients. And when you say primary hypertension, usually there is no single identifiable or reversible cause of the high blood pressure, meaning there is no obvious reason why you are hypertensive. So what is secondary hypertension compared to primary hypertension? If you note, secondary hypertension this time is an increase in your blood pressure brought about by identifiable and potentially curable causes, meaning the causes of secondary hypertension are usually cardiometabolic and most commonly your high cholesterol, which we're going to talk about in a little while. Other causes for your secondary hypertension, of course, is renal diseases, obstructive sleep apnea, surprisingly, is the highest, even hyperthyroidism and other causes. Now, if you don't control your blood pressure, meaning you consistently have high blood pressure, these are the possible complications or consequences of blood pressure. If you're hypertensive, your stroke risk is at least 4 to 6 times. And how does this happen? With hypertension, your arteries are usually clogged easily, especially the arteries in the brain. And if the blood pressure is uncontrolled, boom, you get a stroke, usually a hemorrhagic stroke. Another complication is heart failure. 75% of people with congestive heart failure are usually hypertensive. And this happens when the hypertension causes the heart to enlarge and it fails to supply enough blood to the body. Another grave complication of hypertension is going into a heart attack. And did you know that 69% of people who have the first heart attack don't know that they're hypertensive? And how does this happen? Again, with hypertension, the arteries in your heart, the coronary arteries, are usually black. And again, this is usually caused by your high cholesterol. And if this is left untreated, like I said earlier, you go with another boom. When you say boom, you get a heart attack because no blood supply is given to your heart, so your heart suddenly stops. Another possible complication of your high blood pressure when uncontrolled is, believe it or not, it can strain the vessels in your eyes. And when the vessels in your eyes are strained, they may also burst, and usually you end up with blindness or vision loss. And also, you can also end up with kidney disease or kidney failure, as hypertension usually narrows or weaken or even harden the arteries in your kidneys, meaning that the kidneys don't get enough supply of blood, so they usually fail. And we know that one of the most common important organs in the body is your kidneys. And last but not the least, this is for the men out there, with uncontrolled hypertension, usually you can end up also with erectile dysfunction, as hypertension usually leads to a reduced blood flow in the penis. And we don't want that to happen, guys, right? Now let's look at high cholesterol or dyslipidemia. So what is high cholesterol dyslipidemia? It is one of the most important risk factor, meaning possible cause of coronary artery disease or coronary heart disease, and the one possible cause of stroke. It is defined as an elevated of your total cholesterol or your total triglycerides or your total LDL or your low density lipoprotein, which is your bad cholesterol. And consequently, of course, low levels of your HDL or your high density lipoprotein, which is considered your good cholesterol. So if you want to check if your cholesterol or triglycerides is high, it's very simple to remember. If you have a cholesterol level of more than 200, it means that you have high cholesterol. And if you have triglycerides of more than 150, you're definitely already at borderline high cholesterol. So remember, the magic numbers are less than 200 for cholesterol and less than 150 for triglycerides. Just to show you, if you are curious of how one small fat cell looks like, this is how your small fat cell looks like floating in your bloodstream. This is what you call your lipoprotein cell. And if you notice, it's made up of 3 layers of fat or cholesterol. So imagine millions of these fat cells floating in your blood vessels. This could cause a lot of obstruction or clogging if left untreated. Okay? And we all know that these floating cholesterol or fat cells cannot be dissolved instantly. Okay? Now, one of the complications of high cholesterol or dyslipidemia is atherosclerosis. And just to let you know, or just to show you, as early as the first decade of life, meaning as a child, if you eat a lot of hamburgers or maybe fatty foods, you already start to form fatty streaks in your arteries, okay? And by the third decade or even the fourth decade of your life, this, if left untreated and you continue to take a lot of fat in your diet, you end up with an atheroma or an atheromatous plaque. And this atheromatous plaque usually blocks the arteries, okay? And just to let you imagine, this is how your blocked artery looks like cross-sectionally, okay? So again, what is atherosclerosis? It is the most common complication of high cholesterol. It is a consequence of imbalanced lipid metabolism and a maladaptive immune response that causes chronic inflammation to the arterial wall that injures it, causing blockage. And with the plaque formation there or fat formation, this may rupture and may lead to arterial obstruction, as seen usually in the coronary arteries of the heart and the cerebral arteries of the brain. So, I hope you will remember that high blood or hypertension and dyslipidemia or high cholesterol are two very important interrelated risk factors in the development of atherosclerotic cardiovascular diseases and its possible complications. And believe it or not, prevalence, meaning incidence of these risk factors, are continuously increasing among Filipinos, as I myself see them in the clinic every day. And usually, hypertensive patients are getting younger and younger every day. So, if you're going to ask me, how do we prevent high blood or cholesterol? O paano maiiwasan ng high blood at mataas na cholesterol? Here's my best advice. We go for a healthy lifestyle. Easier said than done, but here are my recommendations. So first, you have to do diet. And for my recommendation, the best diet I could give you or recommend is your DASH diet. DASH diet means dietary approaches to stop hypertension diet. This diet is ideal for hypertensive patients because this diet usually promotes less sodium, or meaning salt, in your diet and increases your potassium, magnesium, and other minerals to lower your hypertension. What does your diet or your DASH diet make up? It's usually 6 to 8 servings per day of at least whole grain, 4 to 5 servings per day of vegetables, 4 to 5 servings per day of fruits, and 2 to 3 servings per day of only free fat or low-fat dairy. And importantly, you should only have less than 6 servings per day of lean meat, poultry, or fish. Meaning, you should be only eating meat or fish at least 3 to 4 days a week, and less than 5 servings per week of sweets. So you can only eat chocolate at least 3 days a week. So that is your DASH diet. And of course, another recommendation of mine, given by the American College of Sports Medicine, we should do at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity at least 5 days a week. 5 days a week lang. Meaning you can get off on Saturdays and Sundays, but at least 30 minutes of exercise Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And last but not the least, we usually forget, you should get at least 7 to 8 hours of good sleep every night to recharge your body and to prevent you to become more stressed. So, to avoid high blood and dyslipidemia or high cholesterol, do the G lifestyle. Simple. Get a well-balanced diet, get regular exercise, and get good sleep. Thank you guys. Salamat. Ingat ka lagi. See you soon. So like, follow, and share us at SugarBeat PH at Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rommel Mapagu, for giving this very informative lecture about the two dreadful diseases, hypertension and dyslipidemia. For more information like this, please like and subscribe to SugarBeat PH social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And for the continuation of our Feature Friday program, featuring Dr. Rommel Mapagu, please join us again this March 22nd for our Monday Night Live, where your questions about high blood pressure and dyslipidemia will be entertained, live. Up next, what is diabetes? Do you want to know about this chronic non-communicable disease? Join us this March 26th and 29th as we have invited Dr. Eric Mendoza to give us another informative lecture and expert advice about diabetes. Consult your doctor while you're at home with Docodo telemedicine application. You can download this to Apple Store and Google Play Store. Once again, thank you for joining, and see you again on our next program.